company this Ramadan.
Welcome back. You're still listening to the Ashraf God show with me, Salilo, standing in for him. Weird being on this side of the booth, but making it work. We have another hour before we wrap up the show. But interact with us. Give us a call, 011-680-0355. And let us know about your Ramadan traditions, the traditions that you started in your own home that your kids have now taken to their homes, or the traditions that you found growing up. You don't know where they come from, but these are things that have always been done in your family, and you're also doing them. Our studio line 011-680-0355, WhatsApp line 061-766-0355. But for now, we're going to be moving on to the financial markets, our financial market updates with Orin Tambo. He's the head of investment strategy at 27/4. Good morning, Orin. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Let's just dive into it as we usually do. South African Reserve Bank will they not increase the repo rate again? South Africans are waiting with bated breaths. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I think for us to know, we have to wait for the announcement. But I think the market is expecting a fairly easy 25 basis points hike. So that would take the benchmark policy from 7.25 to around 7.5%. And I think the thinking really from investors and the market generally is the fact that this particular meeting is coming on the back of the meeting by the Fed in which they increased by 25 basis points. Actually, they've met twice. After the SRB's meeting in January, and they increased by 25 basis points in each instance. And then we also had, in Europe, the ECB also met and increased by 50 basis points. And when you listen to, the comment from those, policymakers, they reiterated the fact that, inflation is still very high. And as a result, they would want to continue doing as much as they could to try and bring down inflation. So, the market is expecting the South African Reserve Bank to really follow through in terms of how it's going to make its decision. Also considering the fact that when you look at our own inflation, it came in a little bit higher than what was expected in February. We had our inflation ticking up to 7%. From 6.9% in January. And when you look at the composition of that inflation, you can see that the weak rand is playing quite a big role. Of course, there were other issues like load shedding. And as a result, I think, those are some of the issues which can be addressed by the South African Reserve Bank. So, I think it's not going to be good news for consumers. It's basically going to result in further pressures when it comes to the cost of living.
Now let's move on to where we are based in Johannesburg. The city of Johannesburg proposing above inflation tariff increases. That can't be good news.
Yeah, definitely. We if you look at how things have been for the past 12 months, the South African consumer is really being pressured from all different angles. We're just talking right now about the repo from the SRB. That is going to result in higher costs for consumers, particularly the middle class, which is indebted. And then we had food prices, increasing at above average. You're talking about rates of around 14%. So now again, I think we're seeing that also coming from the announcements that have been made by the Johannesburg municipality. So according to the information that we have, they're expecting to increase property rates by around 5.3%, so which is basically below, I think, the current inflation of 7%. But I think what has happened in that particular space is that they recently did valuations of properties, and what that means is that the last did that valuation in 2018, and they've been using the 2018 valuation. So what that means is that for some property owners, they might actually be paying more than the 5.3%, which the municipality has pegged. So you could be paying more, especially if the value of your property increases. But again, I think the others, payments that are made to the municipality, other services that you get, and those are expected to generally increase at above 7%. So further, pressure on the South African consumer there.
Mm, mm, mm. And well, you don't seem to be having any good news for me. Another story here: reality check for South Africa's property market, the impact of civil unrest, working from home, and load shedding. Can you shed a bit of light on that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think there's been quite so the property sector has been under pressure for a long time. Actually, before COVID-19, before the July unrest that happened in the country a few years ago, before all these things that we're talking about, it has been under pressure basically because the South African economy has not been performing up to standard. The performance has essentially been below par. Employment has been very high, and as a result, when you look at the commercial side of the property sector, it has been under pressure for quite some time. So I think what's basically happening here is when you look at the property sector for different sectors or different segments, we generally put the different properties within the sector into retail, into industrial, as well as office. And what's happening is that the office space is the one which is generally coming under intense pressure. So what we're seeing is that the occupants levels are very low. So if you look at that particular sector, you're looking at vacancy rates of around 14.7% or even higher in some cases. But when you look at the other sectors, the retail sector and the industrial sector particularly, the vacancy rates there are quite low. And in the resale sector, they're not very high. I think we're looking at something in the single digit region of around 4 point something percent. But again, even though the vacancies are that low, they are struggling from the fact that there's what referred to as the negative rental reversion. So in other words, if you think about some of these big tenants, so if you think about, say, the Rosebank Mall, which is very close to where I am, you've got the likes of Woolies, you've got the likes of Checkers, you've got the likes of Pick n Pay. The landlords needs those type of tenants to be within their mall, and they've got the bargaining power. So what has been happening is whenever the leases that they sign expire, when they negotiate a new one, they've been getting rates that are actually lower than what they were paying previously. So at the end of the day, the property owners, the landlords, are really suffering from all those headwinds which are coming their way.
Mm. No, thank you so much there, Orion. Sure, really, really grim pictures that you're painting for us there.
It
But thank you
is.
so much for giving us your time. We'll be sure to chat again tomorrow. The financial markets there from 27 for painting a very, very grim picture. But yeah, we move on. After the break, we'll be speaking to Nirend. Okay, okay, yeah, social and education activist Nirend Ganache. We'll be talking about the state of South Africa's education and how we can mitigate it while we still have time. I asked the question at the beginning of the show about how are you instilling the love of reading and of numbers and onto your kids. What steps have you taken in making sure that your kids read a bit more, your kids engage with numbers and maths and science a bit more, and not have the general fear and disdain and dislike for maths and science in South Africa, as they're very critical subjects, and they're important. Maths, science, not discounting the other subjects, but they are the ones that give us the doctors, the engineers, and those subjects make you compete in the world stage. So we'll be chatting a bit about why South Africa is just not cracking it, and not just against the first world countries. You can't measure us against countries in Europe and Scandinavia, but you can certainly at least measure us with our BRICS partners, countries in parts of Asia, and right here at home on the continent in Africa. And still, we're not faring that well. We're amongst the worst education system in the world, and it's going to bite us in our behinds if there are no mitigating factors regarding that. So we're going to be chatting to social and education activist Naren Ganesh a bit about that after the break.